right, hello everyone. Jordan Antonoff here. My clock says 10:02, which means some of your clocks might say 10:03, and I'm excited. So I think we're gonna get going here. As Miranda mentioned, we do have this being recorded. So if you miss anything in the live version, be sure to go back and listen to the recorded version. So to everyone that's joining us, thank you. Jordan Antonoff, Chief Revenue Officer at Profound Logic. Just a little background, I've been with Profound coming up on 9 years now. I have been working very closely with our customers throughout these 9 years. And what I've come to learn is that if you listen closely to your customers, they're going to tell you exactly what they want. You don't need to do much guessing. You just need to do a lot of listening. So in today's presentation, which you can see the title here is Transform IBM AS400 Now. And I'll just apologize to those of you that are offended by the term AS400. I do not mean to offend anyone at all. The reason I am using that term in addition to IBM I is because a lot of our customers refer to the system as AS400. And as I mentioned, if you listen to your customers, you'll find out almost everything you need to know. Transform IBM I AS400 now and position your organization for success. Let's get going here. As I mentioned, we're listening to our customers. This entire presentation is based heavily upon feedback from customers. Questions customers are asking us, stories customers are sharing with us, insights that they're sharing with us. And we've gotten a pretty good lay of the land as far as where IBM I customers are right now after spending years having conversations with hundreds, if not thousands of IBM I customers. What we've been hearing for years is that there is a severe developer shortage. Everyone is familiar with this. I don't need to go into too much detail about this, but RPG programmers are retiring en masse, and actually, in many cases now, sadly, we're starting to hear stories of RPG programmers who are actually passing away and leaving their organizations with these systems that they built, they have all the tribal knowledge for. And our customers are telling us that it's really hard to replace these developers. It's hard to find developers that are not RPG developers that want to come work on these RPG systems. We're hearing from our customers and have been for a while that there's a lack of agility. It's difficult to respond to the business needs as quickly as the business is requiring. We're hearing a lot about outdated processes that require a level of manual intervention that is just unnecessary. Lots of paper processes that still need to be digitized. In addition, our customers are letting us know that the problem is not that they don't have enough data. The problem is how do they fully leverage the data that they do have to make better business decisions, get access to the data, the right data, when they need it, wherever they need it, and make these insightful business decisions based upon the data that they have been accumulating for years. In addition, those are not the only challenges that we're hearing from customers. We're hearing other challenges, and we've been hearing these for quite some time, and these challenges that we're hearing, these have not decreased in the frequency that we hear about these from customers. Everyone knows about the issues that come with green screens. We'll just share a couple items that customers do tell us about frequently, that it's difficult to onboard new team members. that they have information spread across multiple disparate screens. They're not overly intuitive. One interesting thing is that we hear from customers that there are certain parts of the business where they want to keep the green screens, that the green screens are as efficient as they can possibly get. What's interesting about it is that in a lot of cases, after customers go through a green screen modernization process, we find out that the areas of the business where they thought, for example, in heads down data entry, where they thought that the green screens were, that you couldn't get any better than the green screens, it turns out that's actually not the case. And when they went through and combined multiple disparate screens, rethought through the workflow, that they actually gained additional efficiency. So I mentioned that because this is something we hear often from customers, that certain parts of the business, you're not going to be able to get better than what they have. We've had a number of customers come back and tell us that that's actually not the case. The customers are sharing with us that they have issues integrating with the number of non-IBMI systems that they're starting to rely on. There's a variety of difficulty with API, from building API quickly and efficiently, maintaining the API, managing API. There are challenges in regards to the speed of application development, and this is not necessarily unique to customers on IBMI. This is a larger problem out in the ecosystem. There's just such a high demand for new applications from the business, but our customers do share with us that they have a very difficult time keeping up with the demand to build new applications, and then once the new applications are built, to go back and make the necessary changes and improvements. And also that emerging technologies such as new cloud and AI technologies that are out there that our customers want to take advantage of, they feel a bit elusive and they're not quite sure how to start leveraging those, because the priority is to modernize and transform legacy assets. Now, let's talk about some growing concerns that have only exacerbated in the past 2 years. We've been hearing a lot from customers about how the technical debt that they have on their legacy systems they've been waiting way too long to address this, and it's becoming a serious problem. They feel like their systems have become too big and bloated. Systems are requiring resources that are becoming exceedingly more difficult to find. Over time, these systems have become overly complex and hard to understand, and the systems are not properly documented. So there's a lot of tribal knowledge, and this tribal knowledge is with those people that are retiring. And as I mentioned earlier, in more and more cases, we're hearing of these people actually passing away. Another concern that we've been hearing a lot more about in the past couple of years, and especially in the past year, is that customers want to have application portability, which is a kind of nice way of saying that customers want to be able to move applications off of IBMI and move them to any cloud offering of their choosing. They don't want any restriction whatsoever. This has become a pretty regular conversation with customers. Of course, the desire to have a truly modern code base is top of mind for our customers. Well, you know, for a while we would share with our customers all of the benefits of going to freeform modern RPG to address the concern of a modern code base, and how that would help them attract new talent, that they don't need to necessarily move to a new code base. They could stick with RPG. Bottom line is our customers told us we don't want to hear that anymore. Not all of them, but a lot of customers told us we want a modern code base that is not a modern version of RPG, And if you cannot help us get to that, we simply do not want to speak with you anymore. Another concern that we've been hearing more and more over the past couple of years, and let me preface this by saying that from our perspective at Profound, we trust what IBM says about their continued ongoing support of the IBM I platform. We do not have an opinion on whether outside of that, we trust and follow what IBM says. However, and this is coming directly from the mouths of our customers, they're telling us and telling us very clearly that they don't really care what IBM has to say about the continued support of the platform. They've seen the roadmaps from IBM. They've been given mandates by their executive teams, by their boards, to start figuring out how to move off IBM I so that there's no chance of them getting blindsided at some point down the road. Now, we assure customers that we at Profound are here to help them fully modernize the system, leverage all the amazing aspects of the system. But the bottom line is that there's more and more customers that simply do not want to hear this. All they want is help preparing workloads to be moved off platform, or they want to start working to move workloads off the platform today. Our customers are clearly concerned about the future, and they have the right to be. We have seen a dramatic shift in our economy and the world of business lately. And there's some analysts from Forrester's emerging tech group that really help us understand the current business environment well and these changes that I'm talking about. There are companies out there that they refer to as digital predators. And these are companies that are pushing the levels of innovation from a technology perspective to whole new levels. Everyone's expectations are continuing to rise as far as the experiences that they have with their companies that they do business with, their partners. People want, whether you're a partner, a customer, or an employee, people in general want highly personalized digital experiences. And these experiences are getting better and better on a daily basis. So in order to stay relevant, I don't care what industry you're in order to stay relevant and not become digital prey, you need to be able to provide these new digital experiences that customers and business partners are looking for. Also that employees are looking for, so that your employees don't start jumping ship to go to companies that have the more modern technology that they're looking for. In order to stay competitive in this regard, speed is extremely important. Organizations need to be able to respond rapidly and to be able to make decisions on sound insight from good, solid data. In order to avoid becoming digital prey and to keep up with the competition, transformation of legacy systems is essential. To elaborate on that, in order to survive, we need to help get IT out of maintenance mode. Too many of our customers running IBM I right now are stuck in maintenance mode, and they can't get into true innovation mode. We must help IT switch from focusing on the upkeep of legacy systems to the business of innovation and revenue generation. And this simply cannot happen when IT is anchored down by legacy assets. So these assets need to be transformed, and IT needs to be given a truly modern system to work with. In order for this to happen, in order for this to become a reality, the business must help. Fear of taking on large transformation projects is understandable. We all have heard the horror stories of failed rewrites, of failed migrations from customized systems to new packages. We know that the cost and time that it's going to take to complete these projects is pretty high. However, and I'll take this straight from Gartner's mouth, they sum it up real well in a recent paper on the impacts of COVID on technology. Modernization is no longer an IT desire, but an operational necessity. So the time has come not just to modernize bits and pieces of your system, but to fully transform and modernize your entire system. The time has come to become a digital business so you can continue to compete for years to come. Now that hopefully we've helped to make the case for why transformation is so important, let's take some time to go through and talk about what can organizations do to build a successful plan for transformation. Clearly, you got to take risks in business. No new innovative, creative ideas, market changing technologies come about without taking a risk. But at the same time, we got to determine and understand our appetite for risk. How much risk are we willing to take when we start this journey of system-wide transformation? Some risks simply might not be worth taking. If you look at the data available, you look at the information that you have to make these decisions, and you start to see certain trends and very risky approaches to transformation and modernization, maybe we should avoid those. Over the years, we've heard hundreds of stories from customers who have spent tens to hundreds of millions of dollars on failed rewrites to Java and .NET. These projects have been in progress for over 10 years, and they're still not done. They've got 10 to 15% of the system rewritten, and the rest of the system is still sitting untouched. There are a host of new issues that have been created now because they have this disparate system that they don't integrate properly with. We've also heard lots of stories from customers about failed migrations to, and I'm not trying to single out Oracle or SAP, it could be any ERP, but these are two common ERP packages we hear about failed migrations to. And these are not just projects that cost a couple million over budget. We're talking about projects that end up costing a couple $100 million often over budget. And then they're a complete failure in a lot of these situations, and they have to be scrapped. There are definitely stories out there of successful rewrites and migrations, but they're few and far between. If you have a high appetite for risk and your business wants to take on risky projects, I strongly encourage you to try one of these approaches. If you think that perhaps there's enough stories of failures in this regard, maybe it's time to try something different. Maybe we should try to do something a little bit more tailored to our unique business needs. Then there are other approaches out there. Another important aspect of building a successful plan for transformation and building a strong business case for transformation is to take the time to really think about who should be involved in this project. Every part of the organization needs to be involved with a large digital transformation project. This can't just be an IT project. We have to build a team that's going to be involved in the planning and the execution of the project. This is a team that's also going to be working closely with a transformation partner that would be wise to bring on to help with a project like this, and we'll get to that in just a moment here. When you look at from a business standpoint, who should be involved? Well, you should probably have some folks that are team leaders, management, mid-level management that's very familiar with business processes, that are close in proximity to the end users, and that also understand the company's strategy and direction. From the business side, we also need to get end users that are very familiar with the applications, that use these applications day to day, know what works well, know what doesn't. And we want to get these users involved from the very start and then keep them involved, because we're going to get to a point in a transformation project where doing user acceptance testing is going to be critical. And we want these users to have been involved throughout the process and not just be thrown in at the last minute. The staff, the employees that have intimate knowledge about these systems, they know what works and doesn't in their day-to-day operations. It would be remiss of us not to involve them from the start. Of course, executives need to be involved in these projects because they're going to be the sponsors of these projects. Large transformation projects are expensive and time consuming, and they need to be sponsored and will be sponsored by business executives. And it's extremely important that the transformation project aligns with the overall company strategy, culture, vision, and company goals. And who better to make sure that that alignment is there than executives? Of course, we need to have our folks from IT involved in this project. These are the individuals that understand the systems, the code, the database, and also have lots of good ideas about how things can be improved. So we want to build a team, a transformation excellence team, so to speak, that has key individuals from each of these groups that can work together. Now, before you take on any large, challenging project, of which transformation it most certainly is, it's important to do some market and competitive analysis. Take some time to learn about what your competition is doing, learn about what others in similar industries are doing. Just to share, for example, one thing we've heard from a number of customers that we are working with on transformation projects right now is that they went out and in their research were shocked to find how many stories they heard about these failed system-wide rewrites and package migrations that I had just spoken about. And after hearing those stories, decided that they needed to find a more versatile approach, something that combined different elements, where there was some sort of automation of modernization, some way to automate some of the code modernization, maybe rewrite some portions that just had to be rewritten because there was no other approach, and replace maybe small portions of the system with smaller packages, an approach that is a little more holistic and versatile. Also, in the same vein, talk to as many people as you can in the market to understand what's been failing. And don't take our word for it. Don't take my word for it, even though you've probably heard a lot of these stories. Speak to people. Find out what's been failing, and once again, decide for yourself if that level of risk is acceptable for your company. It's very important to set reasonable expectations. This is just true in life in general. If you want to have a happy marriage, the two people involved in that need to know what the expectations are of one another and that they're reasonable. If you find anyone that's been happily married for 30, 40, 50 years, They're going to tell you that expectations were clear and they were also reasonable. This is true for any relationship, any engagement, any kind of project, and therefore is the same with a transformation project. These projects are large and complex. They touch large portions of the business. These are projects that are not going to just be done in 2 years. We're not going to be able to take a system that's been highly customized for 30, 40 years and at the snap of a finger in 2, 3 years for, $2, $3 million, get the whole thing transformed. A lot of times organizations think they can do that. They almost always find out that that's not the case. But if you set those expectations up front that are unreasonable like that, the project's not going to go smoothly. Those expectations are going to have a trickle-down effect throughout the years of the project, throughout the duration of the project. Also, no matter how well you analyze, and no matter how many different analysis tools you use, and no matter how many different consultants you have come and analyze your system, the nature of these highly customized 30 to 40-year-old systems is that they're going to be surprises. Once the project gets underway, you are going to uncover things that there was absolutely no way of knowing before. Therefore, do not hold yourself, your team members, or your partners to expectations that are completely unreasonable. Part of the reason I mention this is because we can't forget that there's people involved in these transformation projects. It's not just code, it's not just database, it's not just screens, it's not just systems, there's people involved. And people are emotional. We as human beings it is impossible for us to separate from our emotions. So emotions are going to come into play in these projects. And if your expectations are not reasonably set, emotions are going to get high and volatile. And that is often something that can disrail a project simply because certain key stakeholders have an emotional response to what direction the project's headed, and that comes from their unreasonable expectations. I know you don't typically talk about things like emotions when it comes to business projects, but that is something that should be understood unless somehow you figured out how to completely remove the human element from these projects and you have some computer system that can do this completely isolated from any sort of human emotion. So letting your emotions get too entangled in the project is sure to derail the project, and therefore set the expectations appropriately, and then you'll be able to keep the emotions in check and keep the project headed in the path that it needs to go. The nature of these projects, as I mentioned several times, is that they're large and complex. So we have to have a plan that is flexible and agile. It's funny, in the world of IT projects, we've watched for years how software development never goes exactly as planned. Never. Almost always. I shouldn't say almost always after I just said never. It never goes exactly as planned, and it always goes a little bit over as far as time and cost. Or if it doesn't go over, once in a blue moon, we're surprised and it goes under as far as time and cost goes. With this being the case, it is incredible that we keep expecting every single new software development, software modernization project to be different from all of the other ones in the past. Maybe it's time we learn from the past and accept that no matter what, the future is uncertain. And when we're dealing with complex software systems, we therefore need to be flexible and agile. There really is no other way. We plan the best we can, but your plans are always going to change. So let's not build a plan for transformation that does not have room for uncertainty, that does not have room for flexibility. Let's use a plan, let's use an approach to transformation that can be flexible, that can allow for things to move around depending on shifting priorities. Let's say a new law is passed that requires you in the middle of your transformation project to make changes to a certain application. Can you pivot to transform that application now, even though you hadn't been working on that portion of the system? Or you start working with a new partner and you need to integrate with a portion of the system via API, but you haven't transformed that portion of your system yet. Does your plan give you the room to pivot so that you can modernize and transform the portion of the system that you need to integrate with the new partner that you're starting to work with? So this slide here is very near and dear to our hearts at Profound Logic because we are a transformation partner for our customers, and it's very important. Now, that being said, what I think has changed in the market is that the days of outsourcing 100% of your projects to a vendor are kind of over. I think there was a period of time where you would bring on a systems integrator or a consultant or an ERP vendor, and you would just hand over 100% of the project to them. But now it's a little bit different. The game has changed. Organizations want to have more oversight and more control over these projects, especially. This can be a little bit different if you're moving to an ERP package, because in that case, you might have to outsource the majority of it to them. And you're also at that point somewhat comfortable with the vendor lock-in because you're moving from your homegrown, highly customized system to a package managed by a vendor. But the majority of our customers that we work with on transformation projects have highly customized systems that they want to keep that way for the most part. And therefore, they're not comfortable with vendor lock-in. They're looking for a partner that can help them maintain the customized advantages that their system brings them. And in this case, you need to be able to work very closely with the partner. You want throughout the process, our customers want throughout the process, they tell us they want to be able to collaborate with the vendor that they're working with. They want there to be ongoing knowledge transfer. They want to work side by side. They're not trying to get, the customers are not trying to get into the transformation business, but they do want to understand what their transformation partner is doing so that the transformation project can stay closely aligned with the organization's overall strategy. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just to elaborate on this, a serious issue that a lot of our customers share with us is that their current systems are either poorly documented or they're just not documented at all. It's all tribal knowledge. Part of this overall transformation project should be capturing as much of this tribal knowledge and documenting it. And that is something that can be much more easily done when you're working with a partner that you trust and collaborate with. In addition, if you're working with a true partner, not just a vendor, but a true partner, throughout the project, you're going to be able to suck up a lot of the information and knowledge, and you'll come out of the project feeling empowered by the partner, not reliant and dependent on them for any assistance once the project is done. Our customers need the help, they want the help, but they don't want to be dependent on the partner when the project's done. They want to come out of these projects self-sufficient. I don't think This is a big surprise. It's kind of a no-brainer, but it's important to conduct a technical analysis. Before you transform your system, you should know what makes up your system. This is ideally an area where your partner works with you and assists you, and you get an understanding of how much of your system do you need to transform, how much code do you have, how many screens you have, how much of your system do you not even use and can be retired, what portions of your system should be replaced, which portions shouldn't. Maybe some portions of the system should just remain untouched for a while. This information can be found by doing a good, thorough technical analysis. Now, it's important to identify the value that you expect to get from a transformation project. Transformation projects are not just about technical improvements for tech's sake. They're about getting more value from your system. The goal from a transformation project is that you get to a place where you can be fast, creative, proactive, rather than reactive. The goal is to get to a place where perhaps you are disrupting the market with new innovations rather than sitting by, maintaining your legacy assets and watching others disrupt the market. That you're able to give customers what they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, to improve employee experiences, and to get to a place where you're able to get immediate insight from the data that you have and stay ahead of the curve. These are the goals, some of the goals of a transformation project. These are areas where you should expect to get value, and it's important to note that. In addition, what new opportunities that you are not aware of right now could be created once you're done with transformation? This is a good exercise to do with your team of key stakeholders and your partner to try to identify some new areas of opportunity that a transformed system will provide for you. Also, it's important and essential that we position IT as a driving force to push the organization forward. Let's get IT to a place where it can bring additional value to the organization. Let's get IT to a place where it is truly a service, perceived as a service, rather than perceived as some sort of cost center. Now, also, the value that we're going to get from this project, we should closely tie the value into the overall strategy of the business. And this goes back to looking at a project like this as much more than just technical improvements for the tech's sake. Really understand how can transformation help us execute our company's strategy. And if we think about that from the start, from the beginning of the project, then we'll build that into the overall strategy, and it's going to help us achieve a much more beneficial, highly valuable transformation project. It's important to take time to prioritize your systems. Oftentimes, making the decision of what to prioritize is simply not done because it can be difficult to do. Because when you agree to prioritize one part of your system, that means that you're saying another portion of the system is getting deprioritized, and that can be very difficult for organizations to do, to go through this process. But it's essential to do this, and you got to do this with a combination of the key stakeholders and the transformation partner that you're going to be working with. One of the reasons this is so important is that the first portion of your system that you transform is going to have a really large impact on the overall project. If you start off with a small portion of the system that doesn't really touch a lot of people and doesn't have much of an impact, and it's successfully transformed, a lot of people in the company and the organization might not even notice. But if you start off with a high impact, um, business critical portion of the system that touches a lot of people's day-to-day operations, and that is successful, that part of the transformation is successful, what you're going to do is get a lot of additional people on board to support the project. You're going to reduce doubt in the project, and doubt in projects of this scope is always natural. Once again, the people part of a project like this is essential, and if you can give people something, if you can show people strong, tangible success with a critical part of the system, you're going to get additional buy-in. The more people within the organization that buy in to the overall project, the higher the chance of success of the overall project. Another important aspect to consider in planning for transformation and to help build out this business case for transformation is to think about change management. This is something that's often overlooked in these projects because the focus gets too much on the technical details. But we have to look at, for example, the company culture. What is the culture within the company towards change? So transformation projects require us to try new things and fail quickly and learn from those mistakes. Is your company comfortable, is your organization comfortable with trying new things and failing and learning quickly? Is your organization comfortable with change, or is your organization very change resistant? And if that's the case, you might have to take some time before you start on the project to work with leadership to clearly communicate to the company how transformation is a chance for everyone to upgrade their skills, to prepare for a new workplace of the future, help people get on board with the natural discomfort that comes with change. And this is going to vary by organization because every organization has a different relationship to change. The mindset of the overall project must be must be a positive mindset. And by that I mean that you get the organization to a place where people are comfortable with the change, they're excited about the change, they're willing to change, and that they really deeply understand that that change is necessary for the survival of the organization. This is an aspect of the project that needs to be thought about up front, managed throughout the duration of the project as well, because these projects are going to be going on for 5, 6, 10 years sometimes, depending on the size of your system and how you decide to slice up the overall project. So it's going to be a lot of change over a long period of time. This is something that should not be overlooked. With a project like transformation, we want to look for any advantage that we can to speed up the overall project and also to reduce the amount of manual effort that's required. So it's important to open up and embrace the new technologies like low code, where you don't have to, for example, maybe manually rewrite the portions of the system that need to be manually rewritten. There's a lot of new low-code technologies out there. We at Profound have low-code technology. This is something that can be used to help speed up the overall process. There's so many moving parts and pieces of transformation that we want to look for every little advantage that we can. In addition, what areas of the transformation project could benefit from different automation technology that's out there? Maybe there's AI and machine learning technology that can help with the overall transformation process, and we should be willing and open to embrace these technologies to help us keep this project as streamlined and speedy as possible. Lastly, the financial impact. This is always an interesting and somewhat tricky part of transformation, digital transformation, because there are so many potential areas of value that you'll get once the project is done, and they're not going to be gained immediately. It can be somewhat difficult to do this financial analysis, but there are certain things that can be done, and you do have to go through the process of understanding the financial impact of the transformation project. A couple things to keep in mind. One is that, yeah, you're going to get quotes from your partner for the professional services portion of the work. You're going to get a quote if you're replacing certain portions of the system with packages. You'll get quotes for that. That, of course, is not the entirety of the cost. There could be other costs that come from allocating existing staff to the project, potentially hiring new staff due to that. There could be new infrastructure costs. There could be new costs related to new cloud systems that you start to leverage. There could be costs that come from retraining current users on the newly transformed systems. So we want to take a holistic look at the costs that are going to be involved and not just look at the quote that you get from your vendor or the partner that you're working with. Also, and this goes back to reasonable expectations, when you have a project of this scope that transformation projects are, they almost always cost a little bit more than people think. So let's keep that in mind and set expectations reasonably for the total cost and leave some buffer room. So whatever hard number you get to that is going to be your total cost of ownership for the project, it's probably safe to assume it's going to be a little bit higher than that. When it comes to determining the return on investment for a project like this is where you got to get creative. You might be able to do some simple ROI, but the creative part is going to be important here, because you're going to have to think about what new streams of revenue, for example, can be created once you've transformed. How much faster are you going to be able to respond to the market and customer demands, and what's the financial benefit of that going to be? What new systems are you going to be able to integrate with easily, and what financial impact will that have? Of course, how much faster are you going to be able to innovate, and the financial implication that that's going to have? So this is going to be a creative exercise, I think it's fair to say. Also, we want to take some time to look at and understand what additional value are we going to receive, are we going to experience from transformation, and can we try to put some numbers to that additional value? What manual processes might be automated that will save us money? What new points of integration will we be able to create that can increase sales? And just in general, what other efficiencies will be gained? This is an exercise that ideally should be done in collaboration with the key stakeholders and the partner that you're working with. So that sums it up for today. Hopefully, I was able to share some interesting information. If you came away with at least one new idea or thought that can help you take your existing transformation project to the next level, or to help you start a transformation project, I'm a happy man. We here at Profound are here to help you with pretty much everything we talked about today. If you do want to talk to us, it's very easy to find us, as it is anyone in our shoes that's trying to help you in a new endeavor like this. So come talk to us. We'd love to hear any questions you have. If you want to get any additional information on your own, feel free to go to our website. You all know how those things work. So thank you once again. I appreciate everyone's time, and have a great day. This recording will be available so that you can share it with everyone you know and love. Thank you all.